and welcome to this week's Jolene's Book and Writers Talk. We welcome Richard Gartee, a member of the Writers Alliance of Gainesville and one of the head honchos over at the Sunshine State Book Festival every year in January. He is both nonfiction and fiction writer, and he's also a poet, and he has several books in that realm as well. And today he's going to be talking about his latest book, his previous book, and being on Goodreads and his giveaway. So we hope you enjoy the show. Please like, subscribe, and follow our channels, and make a comment down below if you'd like. Okay, here we go.
Well, hello, Jolene. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Richard Gartee. I've been an author for a good part of my life. I have this novel that we're going to talk about today is my 8th novel. I also wrote nonfiction books and poetry collections before that. The newest book to come out is called Orgone Gizmo. It spans the 50 years of the 20th century, the last 50 years of the 20th century, and its protagonist, Gizmo Carson, is an engineer and a Korean War vet with top secret security clearance. And in the 1950s, he's as straight as anyone. However, during the public outcry against the Vietnam War in the 60s, it causes him to quit working for the military-industrial complex and embrace the hippie counterculture. At a commune, he's introduced to orgone, life force energy that was discovered by psychiatrist Wilhelm Reich. And he spends the 70s traveling around in a VW camper building orgone energy accumulators for people. Years later, Gizmo encounters an improbable character who survives without eating, sustained solely by orgone energy, which is kind of proof to the concept of what he's been doing the whole time. And the stranger says he desperately needs Gizmo to build him an accumulator. And that's easy enough, but the place his new friend wants to be taken is dangerous and highly classified area. And that's the setup for the book.
Sounds very intriguing.
It was inspired a lot by some of the things that are going on today. There's been a lot of talk about book banning.
Right.
And that brought to mind a memory for me of Wilhelm Reich, who was perhaps and hopefully the last scientist whose books were confiscated and burned. You see how book banning can lead to book burning. I began researching Reich and that whole incident a little bit. And in the course of it, I found some other interesting things, which is that he had not only made this discovery of orgone life force energy, what the energy was, but that he had in further research that he could draw it from the atmosphere and that he could affect the atmosphere with his technology that he was developing. And so he went to Arizona and New Mexico during one of the worst droughts of the 1950s in an attempt to see if he could cause green grass to grow on the desert land. And while he was out there, he had some unusual experiences that I later worked into the book. Now, Reich is not a character in the book. Gizmo is the character in the book, and Reich is long dead by then, but Gizmo's whole mission is to try and make up for the government having burned his books. In the 1970s, there was a big influx of Indian gurus and meditation and yoga that became part of what is normal in our culture now, but it really came in during the 70s. A lot of what they talked about in what they termed the energy or the force that is the cause of life is almost identical to what Reich's research was showing. He had done an experiment where he put sterile organic matter in a sterile media and introduced this energy that he was experimenting with and caused it protozoa to begin to form. This book burning was so effective that I think many people today didn't know who Reich was. I mean, certainly as I researched, a lot of people didn't know. He was actually one of the founders of psychiatry. He was a colleague of Freud. Freud put him in charge of his Vienna clinic. I mean, he was not a crackpot. He was a medical doctor. He was a founder of the field of psychiatry. And very much like Freud, when the Nazis came to power, Freud had to leave the country. They ran him out of the country, and Reich also left the country. It was interesting bit of research to bring into the book.
So how long did this book take you to research and get together?
Well, I pretty much wrote the main body of the book within the last year or so. Normally, it takes me 18 months from the time I start researching a book until I have it finished and ready to come out. This one took a little bit longer because last year I did a book on the history of the Hippodrome Theater, and that kind of interrupted this process because there was a targeted deadline. It was the 50th anniversary of the Hippodrome. And so I wanted the 50-year book to be out at that time. And I had started this and done some of the research for it, but I had to set it aside till the Hippodrome book came out, and then I could go back to this.
How did you research this particular one? What sources did you find the most helpful?
It turns out that though the government had confiscated and burned 6 tons of his books. It's been 50, 60 years since then, and some of them have been reprinted. I got my hands on quite a few of the books from that period of time, that not the original books, of course, but the reprints of the books, and was able to read those and did quite a bit of research on the internet. It's very helpful. The internet, I mean, that's changed the way writers used to have to go and lock themselves in the graduate school library or something to find obscure things. But now you can order things online, you can read things online. You just have to be careful what your sources are. So it was a combination of actually reading the writings of Reich and then doing a lot of research online. Because the book spans the last half of the 20th century, there's a lot more in the book that I did have to do kind of fact checking on. So it covers the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s. So just to get the details right, I would have to go in and look up, what day of the week that this particular thing happened on, even though I remember generally when it happened.
Well, I find newspapers.com to be an excellent source because they have newspapers from around the world, and whatever they can find to get digitized, they're doing it.
I didn't happen to use that for this book, but in the previous book that I just mentioned, the 50-year history of the Hippodrome, I used online archives extensively. It was based in Gainesville. So I was fortunate that both the Gainesville Sun and the Alligator were online through our library. You didn't have to pay that fee to newspapers.com. You could just go into the library site with your card, and there was a link there that let you search the Gainesville Sun archives. And they had everything from 1911 till the present.
Yes, I do love UF's digital library. For some reason, the Jacksonville Times-Union won't allow theirs to be on the University of Florida's website.
Yeah, they're also very reticent about letting you quote from their paper. Again, back to the previous book, I had a lot of reviews that were done by a reviewer in Jacksonville, and I had to be pretty careful about what extent I could reference one of his reviews, but the Gainesville Sun gave me permission to use everything I wanted. So
how did the 50 years of Hippodrome do in sales wise? No, it's a specialty book.
It did quite well, particularly with the Gainesville area. It's not that big of a nationwide book, but it's very popular here in Gainesville. And I did promote it fairly heavily, which again held up my writing on this book on Gizmo. Last summer, I did public talks on it throughout the entire month of July. I did 4 of them in a row, one at the Matheson, one at the Hippodrome, 2 at the Library Systems, and each on a different topic. So there was a bit of putting together that PowerPoint, a different PowerPoint for each
Right.
presentation. It went over very well.
Oh, good. Your local libraries allow you to sell your book. Some don't, some do.
Yes, an author who's doing an author program can sell their own books during that program.
Cool.
And the Matheson Historical Library here, they carried the book. They still carry it. So people who are interested can go there and get it.
Do you get like a consignment deal with them?
No, they bought them outright.
Wow. That's nice.
They have a little bookstore there. I mean, they get the typical bookstore discount, but they bought discounted.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Notice that your newest book is doing a giveaway on Good, and I wanted everybody to know that so they can go on Goodreads and sign up.
Yes, thank you. And that will be through June 1st. So you have from now till June 1st to get onto Goodreads. If you're a Goodreads member, you can just go on there and sign up. If you're not sure where you sign up at, just look up the book on Goodreads and that'll have the giveaway right beside it.
Well, they usually send me emails and stuff, but I wasn't following you, so I had to make sure I went in and followed you. I try to follow everybody I come across, but I know you're not on social media much.
Well, I'm not much. I have websites for my books and website for myself. I am on Goodreads and LinkedIn, but LinkedIn was really for a different
purpose. I've been using it for book sales too, to connect with other authors. Of course, you get job offers for being editors and stuff like that. That's not what I'm interested in.
Now the Goodreads giveaway is, for me, a particularly good venue because you're sure that everybody who's on Goodreads is a reader. That's why they're there. If you're targeting something on Facebook, Facebook or something, maybe some percentage of those people read books, maybe most of them don't. They just spend their time on TikTok or whatever. you
Right,
know.
right.
But I like Goodreads because everybody there is there because they like books, because they want to read. And the other advantage that I found with the Goodreads giveaway was that, and I don't want to discourage anybody from signing up, I hope they will. Every person who enters the giveaway, Goodread automatically puts that book on their to read list.
Oh, nice.
So sometime later, you're going to look through, oh, what did I want to read? And Oregon Gizmo will be there on your list.
Oh, no, that's great. Would you mind telling us a little bit how that works for other authors who's never done a Goodreads a giveaway before?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing you should do is join Goodreads yourself as an author. And when you find your book, you can sign up to Goodreads to tell Goodreads, I am an author. And then you can find all of your books and they'll connect all of your books together. So somebody brings up your name or whatever, it's got all of your books there. When you have a new book come out, if that book is being sold through Amazon, then automatically within hours of the time that Amazon puts the book up, it will be on the Goodreads site as well. And if it's not on your list of books, you can go there and claim it and go, it's here. I've always found that they put it up and they connect it to me automatically. They know it's me. So that's very good. You also have a section as an author in Goodreads where you can put in your bio or you can put in your profile. If you want to treat it like other social media sites, there's a Q&A forum and you can answer like a question there and they'll even prompt you with questions that readers might want to ask the author and you can fill those out. The readers see your answers and you can do it at some regularity. So you don't have to do them all at once. You can do one a week or one every 2 weeks or whatever. If you scroll way down at the very bottom of your author section, of your author profile, then there's a place where you can set up that I want to do a giveaway. And you can give away either hardbound copy, paper copies, paperback copies. I guess you can give away hardbound if you want. You can give away either printed copies or ebooks. For the first time I did it, I gave away paperbacks. The problem was they handle everything. They do the drawing and everything for you. But when they send you the list of the winners, then you have to package up all these books. You have to go to the post office and you have to pay the postage to mail those things out to all these people. Since there is the option to just do an ebook, I chose to do ebooks ever since. For all of my books, I've had a giveaway and I chose the ebook format because then I don't have to do anything at all. They deliver it and everything. They pick the winners. I say, how many copies do I want to give away? The max is 100. I give away 100 every time because except for the time that I did the paperbacks. But when I'm doing the ebooks, I give away 100 because in my mind, those people have already said, hey, I would like to read this book. And if they get the book, there's a high probability that at least some of them are going to write reviews. It's a way that down the road I'll generate reviews. You have to pay Goodreads a fee for this. The author does to set up the giveaway. It used to be that you had to pay the fee if you were doing paperbacks, but you didn't have to pay the fee if you were doing ebooks. Eventually they just changed it and the fee is the same no matter which one you choose to do. So the big saving in doing an ebook is that you don't have the expense of having to ship all those books to the winners.
So what's the latest fee?
$119, which is again why I'm giving away 100 books because then it only costs me $1.19 to give away a book.
Right. That's a really good deal, actually,
Yeah.
considering how many people are still on Goodreads and actually use it.
You can see, even the readers can see. When you go to enter the giveaway, it tells you, as you're entering it, tells you how many people have already entered. So I can look at it every day and I can see that how many people have signed up already.
Okay.
I haven't checked it lately. I don't check that every day, but I think like the day after the giveaway went live, I had like 384 people signed up. And you want to promote it yourself. So it's on my website. Oh, enter the Goodreads giveaway. I send an email out to my followers every time I have a new book come out, and it's in my email to the followers saying, hey, you can try to get a free copy. You can enter the contest.
Some of the authors like art copies.
I have done art copies, but usually they take a long time to get the review done, and I often have the book out by the time the art reviews are coming back. I mean, the book may have been out for a couple months by the time the art reviews come back. I do less of that than I used to. I do beta readers when I'm in preparation for the book, and there's a program in Writers Alliance where you can find beta readers. So I have beta readers read the book before I finish it.
Cool. Got to take your help where you can get it, right?
That's right.
I'm assuming you have both male and female characters. And what is the trickiest thing about writing characters of the opposite gender in your fiction?
For me, there's not anything tricky about it. Like I said, this is my eighth novel, so I'm pretty comfortable in what I do. I create a story in my mind, what this is going to be about. And I have a lot of ideas for books, but I look for a story where almost immediately I see what the whole thing should be. I see it from beginning to end. Kind of write that out as a starting point before I even start the book. Here's the whole thing. Here's what it's going to be. I also create what some writers call a character Bible. I create a document, and every character is listed in that document. And I put in a lot of background things about them that may never appear in the book. They're just
Right.
how things that I think about that person, how I think they are. So when I go to write a male or a female character, I know that character. And I know if they were going to say something, I know how they would say it because I know what their background was. Whether they went to Catholic school, whether they lived in a hippie commune, whether their parents were rich, everything about that character is in my mind, even though it's not necessarily on the page. So when I go to describe the character, it's pretty well known to me what it is and how they would behave. I'm a bit of a feminist, so my female characters tend to be pretty strong. Oregon Gizmo is the first novel that I've written in the first person. So it's all from Gizmo's point of view. All the previous novels are all written in close third person. There are chapters which are from the woman's point of view, chapters that are from the man's point of view, chapters that are from, when you're writing in that mode and you're in a character's point of view, then you have the ability to communicate a lot of what their feelings are, what their emotions are. It's a bit of a disadvantage when you write only in the first person because you can only write what that character's emotions are, and any other character's emotions are just communicated through dialogue or action.
So it's good to know that you have strong feminist characters. That'll be a nice keyword. If you could be mentored by a famous author, who would you pick? Either nonfiction or
Probably dead ones.
well, of course, all the good ones are dead, it seems.
I would say Robert B. Parker or Robert Heinlein.
Oh, two very good ones. They do
I
sound
really liked their writing. I liked their writing style. That I was heavily influenced in the beginning. I had read all of their books. I read every book that Robert Parker ever wrote. I wrote every book that Heinlein ever wrote. So I was inspired by their particular style of how you create prose that's interesting.
okay. So Heinlein was a science fiction author for the main part.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Parker is mystery.
Parker's mystery Western.
Oh, he Western.
Yes, but not so many. I mean, he did like 70 mysteries and 6 Westerns, something like that.
Okay, well, those are two very different genres.
We talked a moment ago about emotions. What I found was that emotions in fiction are best portrayed by not saying what the person is feeling. Okay. They're best portrayed by either what that person says to other people, or if you're in that character's head, what their internal monologue is, or what their physical actions are, right? Somebody slams a door, you know they're angry. You don't have to say, John was so angry, he slammed the door. John slammed the door, you know he's angry. So a lot of emotion is communicated.
Show, don't tell. Okay, here's one that I like to ask because we're
Sure.
Computer geeks. What writing software do you like to use and why?
Word.
Just Word.
Yep.
So you don't have opinion on Scrivener or Pro Writing Aid?
I use Pro Writing Aid, but not as an authoring software. I use it kind of as an extensive cleanup after I'm done. I put a chapter in there and check it for grammar, check it for commas, check it for style, check it for repetitiveness. It's got some useful tools in there. I think that they say that you can just go in there and start typing and write your document in there, but I don't. I write in Word.
Yeah, me too.
In the old days, authors used to have a whole bulletin board of 3x5 cards, and they would put their little plot summaries on each card, and then they could move them around and stuff. I think with Scrivener and those types of things, they're trying to emulate that. What I do is, I've already mentioned, I have a character document. So I put every character in this document and things that I know about that character or that I want to remember later about that character. Now, some writers write by outline, and I used to write college textbooks, so I had to write by outline for those books. It's a requirement. You have to turn in your outline before you can get your contract. But I don't write fiction exactly by an outline, but I do a document that's similar to that, which is that I have one paragraph for every chapter in the book that tells me this is what happens during that chapter. And then I can rearrange those. If I want to move a chapter, all I have to do is move that paragraph. And I go, okay, this is now chapter 11. 11 instead of chapter 19. So I use that to keep myself organized, which is one of the tools that Scrivener has. I didn't find a need to work in a complicated system like that. Writers Alliance has a critique group that reads your stuff every week or every 2 weeks, however they meet. We call them pods. And I've always been in pods. I find those are very helpful. The people in the pods that I shared with who use Scrivener had a very difficult time trying to get out that chapter that they wanted to submit for that week. Something would always get messed up. So again, it was another reason why I'm not trying to put down Scrivener. I didn't want to invest my time into something that was going to be a challenge for me. I don't know that Word is the absolute greatest word processor that there is, but the thing about Word is that it's so ubiquitous that when you go to do a pitch or something, people are always wanting you to send it to them in a Word document. You just work in that way. It's relatively easy to communicate with the outside world.
That it has a read aloud font because I can change the voice.
Yeah.
If you have it connected to the internet, you can change it to British, Australian, American, male, female, different females, different males. If it's not flowing for you, it'll let you know where a comma needs.
That's excellent, Jolene. Yes, I do that myself. I was doing it even before that. Was a read aloud function in PDFs in Adobe Reader. So I would just save a copy of the document in Adobe Reader and tell Adobe to read it aloud to me. But yeah, now that it's in Word as well, it's a very useful function because, like you say, your mind wants to put in places where you forgot words. You're just reading a sentence and you didn't put the word to in, or you didn't put the word the in, and your brain just goes right past it. But when you're hearing it,
yes, it catches those from and forms too.
Yeah. If we come back to the novel Orgon Gizmo before we wrap up here, I think one of the things that readers will find interesting in it is because I spanned the last half of the 20th century, there are events in there that a lot of readers will remember having experienced themselves. So a couple of them in there are he's on a base when Kennedy is shot. When during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he's living in Texas, and his landlady is very concerned about what's going on and very nervous about what's happening with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Obviously, there's the space landing on the moon is part of the book. In the latter part of the century, the whole rise of computer, internet, the invention of the internet, and the dot-com boom that eventually crashed all those companies. So those kinds of events are in there. And I think that they're not the main story. They're just like part of what he's living through. But I think that's something that readers will enjoy remembering.
They can connect to.
Yeah. I didn't put everything in that happened, but enough that you could see his life progress. It had an emotional weight for him of what he was going through at that time or something in my.
Last one. What do you think about the rise of AI in terms of writing? Help or hindrance, or a combination of both?
I don't use it myself. I do see that in a mild way, it's helpful. Like Pro Writing Aid has a suggestion section. They've always had a thesaurus. So if you couldn't think of a right word, you could click on it and it would bring up a thesaurus. Now it's more like you've got this phrase and how could it be rephrased? How could it be less passive and more direct?
That's mine. Passive.
Yeah, but as far as AI producing stories and things, I don't know what we're going to get out of that. We'll have to see. Can a computer write a story that's interesting enough for readers to want to read it, although they're not using it that much in Hollywood yet? But I kind of compare it to what I see with films, that it seems to me that there are certain points in which the film industry is just like redoing the same thing over and over and over again. You see the movie, this is just like every other movie that I've seen. There's nothing new here. They're just taking the elements and arranging them. That is what I'm afraid that an AI generated book would read, is that over time, the AI is just going to take the same structure, the same plot line, the same thing, and put in new characters. I don't know that it'll be interesting reading.
It's not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, writing is a wonderfully creative process, especially writing fiction. Poetry is a very wonderfully creative process. And so it's a lot about how you can apply what you see in the world or what you feel about the world or what you've experienced and say it in a new way that's interesting into the reader. And for me, I enjoy that. I would not enjoy just operating a computer that sat and churned out things. I haven't tried building an outline with one yet.
I use a product called Pseudo Write. Got a lot of additional plugins. It's really good for fantasy. They do have mystery sections. It can create an outline like Save the Cat with the Beats. It can create an outline with the Hollywood script thing, So if you don't know any of that, it's a learning tool for me. All right, Richard, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you.
We hope you liked this week's podcast with Richard Gartee of Gainesville. And make sure you sign up for his giveaway. You only have a couple of days left. Please like, subscribe, and comment to our podcast, both video and audio format. It will be available sometime on Tuesday this week because of the holiday. We're a little behind, but it will be done. Also, we'll be featuring Richard in an article on the North Florida Writers Blog Tour soon. So stay tuned for that. If you would like to become a guest on the podcast, check out southerndragonpublishing.com under the Jolene's Book and Writers Talk tab at the top right hand corner. You'll have to click under contact. It'll be there. So until next time, have a good week.